Monday, and you know how we do it. This is Beyond the Headlines with me, Benjamin Akakpo. We're getting into some very topical matters, I can assure you. One of them has to do with Parliament wading into the entire conversation in terms of those 499 students who sat the exam to get into the Ghana School of Law and were told, well, you got 50%, but we've shifted the goalposts. You don't qualify. You should have got 50% here in Section A and 50% in Section B. But that was not the requirement. Parliament has waded into the matter. What is the way forward? Today we'll discuss that shortly, but we're also going to be talking about something else that is of great interest. It has to do with Francis Xavier Sosu, Member of Parliament for Madina, who again nearly got arrested. The Ghana Police Service says we have no knowledge of this. The National Security Apparatus also says, well, this was not with our knowledge or our backing. So these people who went, who exactly were they? That's the big question. On the last leg of BTH, we are going to be talking about the constant clashes between, students of Commonwealth Hall and Mensa Saba Hall. We saw it again between UG's, the SRC election. How do we stem the tide of all of that? Professor Jampo will join us on that beat. And on the Sosu issue, we shall also have his spokesperson, Mr. Nuku, joining the conversation. But right now, let me say a very good morning to Mr. Martin Kpebu, a lawyer, an advocate when it comes to many things. He's also an anti-graft campaigner. We know him when it comes to LGBTQI. Mr. Kpebu, a very good morning to you.
Hello?
Mr. Kpebu, I can hear you slightly. Yeah? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Good morning.
Good morning to you. I hope you're well, sir.
Yes, I'm well. Good.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if we have, there's a bit of an interaction where we hear Afenyo Market. In fact, I'm sure you've followed, members of Parliament speaking on this matter in terms of legal education in the country. Let me just address this. If the tape is ready, we shall just play it so you can also follow what exactly Afenyo Markin said. But we'll get to that. We'll get to that shortly. So members of Parliament have...
No, Ben.
Yes, can you hear me?
One second, let me clarify this. I'm a lawyer for the students in the court action. So it means that publicly I cannot comment on what Parliament did because I'm leading and I represent the lawyers in court. So I don't want to be caught by the rules that if you are in court, don't comment about your matters on the media.
Okay. So that point is that to say that anything to do with what, Parliament wading into this matter, you can't, discourse on it, you can't touch on it in any way. I mean, it's a novelty for Parliament to do this.
Yes, I don't, naturally, once I comment, it's sweet, but let's just be careful. If as soon as I go into it, then to be like, you are in court, and then you've got to jump onto the Parliament one, and you are talking about your kids in court, and so I think that's my last word on it.
Okay, so let's talk about the matter in courts then. At least that you can take some swipes at, I believe.
No, that's exactly what I said. So once the good work the parliamentarians did would impinge on the court matter, I cannot talk. So for the same reason, I cannot talk about the court matter unless it's extremely something very technical that nobody would understand. But what we did, we went to court on Friday, and what happened there, your reporters were able to report everything accurately. So there's nothing technical for me to...
all right, so you give us an update so far when it comes to what happened on a Friday and what your expectations are moving forward. Maybe we can at least delve into that. Before, maybe I'll leave you with the Sosu issue, the technicalities when it comes to the Constitution. And then...
Wow, good. As an international journalist, I know. I wish, naturally, assuming the rules allow, I would even probably be the one to wake you up that I want you to give us an opportunity to further advocate on TV if the rules were to allow. But if the rules don't allow, let me just be very careful to stay out.
Okay. So on that issue, I completely understand. Of course, I do realize I am pushing you, but you're being Very, very cautious in that regard. At least the issue, another issue that has come to the floor of Parliament has to do with Member of Parliament for Madina, Francis Xavier Sosu, and that planned demonstration at which he was accosted by the police, nearly apprehended. He wasn't. He was let go. I'm sure you've seen some footage from yesterday where he was nearly accosted by some people claiming to be from National Security. But here's the interesting part. I'll just leave you with this so maybe you can react. The Ghana Police Service has disowned, so to speak, these people. They say they are not under them. So has National Security. So right now we're in a bit of limbo. We don't know exactly where these people came from. From the point of law, sections 116 going, I've heard different people speak on the matter. Do you feel that this targeting, is this targeting of a member of parliament? Is it targeting, looking at the sort of immunities they enjoy?
So far, they said that the police service are denying, the National Security are denying that they didn't send these people. It's difficult to use the word targeting. And certainly, one thing is clear that this matter doesn't look tidy at all. Yes, because what's happened is that, the police tried to arrest him after the demonstration. And then the youth intervened because they didn't see anything wrong. I wasn't there. I'm not saying anything good or bad about it.
Right.
The attempted arrest. So let's go straight to the speaker certificate. Under our constitution, when you want to arrest a member of parliament in these circumstances, first was not specifically caught in the act of committing a crime, you would need the speaker's permission.
Right.
The speaker has to release the member of parliament. But in this case, when the police wrote to the speaker said the cause of the West note that they are confronted with right now, he can be able to release the honorable member. So it means that the police and the speaker would have to come to some middle ground, on a subsequent date. So that's how come now that there's another development in the media, it doesn't make the situation look good at all. You see, yes. So those persons who went to attempt to arrest Honorable Sosu, now that both institutions are denying knowledge, they are really putting the police in a bad light because that's not good. Not at this time that the IC is doing all the goodwill you can find in Ghana to help in its work. And then this particular matter is the village we erode that goodwill very fast. So it doesn't look like that one for sure. Yeah, so we will treat whoever is behind that, look, they should come clean, they should make a clean breast of it. And look, we are self-respecting in Ghana. Maybe we went out on our own. We had no instructions from wherever the support to come from. And then on top of the rest, I see and then the Speaker of Parliament, they can talk behind the scenes and then resolve in terms of getting a new date for them to talk to Honorable Sosu.
One thing that I find very interesting is that, I mean, like we're discoursing on now, so if the police didn't send them, if National Security didn't send them, they identify themselves as such, only God knows where, maybe if they had taken custody of the Member of Parliament, where he would have ended up, because obviously it wouldn't have been state-sponsored, so to speak. So only God knows where he would have ended up. And that could have been a very troubling situation because the police would tell you, we didn't dispatch them. National Security would tell you, we didn't dispatch them either. How much of a problem is that? Because you have people, I mean, a top security person was speaking to me recently. I was saying, National Security people, those with the NIB and others, wouldn't even be going around saying, hey, I'm with the National Investigations Bureau. I mean, you wouldn't see people going around saying, I'm with the FBI or I'm with the CIA. But that's what we see in this country. How problematic is that?
Yeah, great. So I like the point you made. In fact, when we go by the laws of the country, this particular matter we are dealing with, I even struggle to see how it will end up on the desk of the National Security. So do you know what? Once they've denied, Let's leave it at that, because when we analyze, it's going to be extremely difficult to find a justification. National security is not super police. No. I think now we've done enough education for citizens to know that that's not it. They are not super police.
Right.
Their work is different. You see, they deal with broader issues that affect the totality of the security of the nation. But this is not just crime investigation. It's about monitoring. Look, when there's food shortage, that's national security. When there's no water and residents, let's say Medina, and let's say airport, there's no water. It's national security. So I'm sure you hear things like human security, right? So national security is not super police, so that like the women in the past they said to do. Now we've had their out there. They are not.
Mr. Kpebu, I am losing you a bit. If you could just reiterate the point you were making, the connection was not so good. If you could just reiterate, Mr. Kpebu, with all apologies.
Yes, so the point I'm making is that national security is not the kind of super police that as citizens we are encouraging them to become. No. When you read the Securities and Intelligence Agencies Act, national security just have their own duties differently, okay? They gather intelligence. They gather basically their intelligence organization. They are not into everyday policing. I'm talking about the National Security Secretariat.
Right.
Okay, they have divisions, and then you hear DNI. So when National Security has anything that they want to investigate, okay, when they gather the intelligence and then they see a crime, they pass it on to DNI, which is another wing of it. You say, so we have the internal security agency and then the external security agency. Then the national security, the people we call national security FA, is the secretariat. It's the secretariat of the national security. They don't do everyday policing.
Right.
So they have no harm in this particular matter. So it's even good that they are denying knowledge of it.
But my core, why I'm worried about this, I think you've slightly missed that, is this. Because of their involvement and how people come out and say, I am national security. I mean, recently in Legon, for example, when the elections were being held and some were purported to be there, you would see people supposedly with inscriptions and all of that, which is not the norm when you go to other jurisdictions. But my question is, because it is like that, now if someone were to come to the studio and say, I am national security, I am with the national security, and we are supposed to pick you up, you wouldn't know the difference. And that's my concern, because then people can go out there, maybe not belonging to national security, but they go and create the impression, take someone away, whisk the person away, and God knows what they could do with them. That's where my focus is, actually.
Excellent. So it's good you've raised it, so we get more education. If the person comes, says it's national security, you ask for identification. You have to ask for identification. And what's the matter? And remember, when it's a matter of arrest, if it's illegal, it can be registered as a citizen. So you ask for identification. Who is he? If it's national security, the secretariat, the minister is not a policeman, they cannot just come and arrest you. So let's get this clear. The operatives, the party food soldiers who are incorporated into national security, they are not policemen. They don't have powers of arrest. No party food soldiers. No, they don't. There are some in the National Security Secretariat who are policemen, even seconded from the police service to national security. So they double up. Yeah, so when he's a policeman, he will show you his ID and all that. And let me repeat, the party food soldiers who were incorporated into national security, those who went double and co, who went brutalizing people at the different by-elections, they have no powers of arrest. They have no powers of arrest. Those are party food soldiers who will be incorporated. They help in gathering intelligence. They have no powers of arrest. So if somebody comes and says it's from national security, you ask to see his ID. You see at the secretariat, just an officer, if he has no powers of arrest, it's the police among them who have the powers of arrest. Okay? And then the DNI. So remember, I mentioned that the DNI is the internal security agency. So DNI officers usually are policemen. And then there's the external security agency. That's the research department of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. So that's how it works. It's good. Maybe we can have a full session on this national security because, you know, they've cost us too much in the past, the digitalization and all that. I'm sure today that's not the focus. So, I mean, maybe we can leave it at this.
I completely agree. But just a minute, Mr. Kpebu, right before you take leave of us, I just want you to touch on this. The law, you know, sections 115, I think 5, 6, 7, 8, going, when it talks about some of the immunities that are enjoyed by members of Parliament. Some lawyers, like Asan Kumar, have been saying that the Ghana Police Service can take up the matter in court for further clarity on what exactly they are immune from. I mean, judging from what happened recently to Member of Parliament for Medina, Francis Xavier Sosu. Do you feel it is not clear enough, especially as Parliament also, on the other hand, came in and cited these police officers, 2 ACPs, high-ranking, for contempt of Parliament? Do you also support that maybe they should seek further clarity in court?
Oh, definitely. It will help. Seeking clarity in court will help because at least if you lay bare some of the things that are not clear. Okay? Number one, you see, like I mentioned, if the Member of Parliament is suspected to have committed an offense, but let's say he was not caught directly in the act. It's not like, let's say you've seen him killing a human being, he's shooting somebody to death, but that is needed for investigations. Those are the ones that the speaker you need to go through the speaker. But let's say if you were to see him shooting somebody to death or any other offense, he just assaulted, maybe beating at somebody mercilessly. Oh, that one, citizens arrest. The citizens will arrest you there and take you to the police station.
Right.
So maybe if we go to the Supreme Court, we'll get some of these clarifications and etc.
Thank you, Mr. Kpebu. Thank you so much for speaking to us this morning, and all the best with proceedings in court. Martin Kpebu is a lawyer, and he also represents the 499 who actually are pleading their case in court.